Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Hello, and welcome to another PhotoJoseph Live. I'm your host, PhotoJoseph, and today we are going all over the place, but focusing on the S1 and the S5. The recent firmware updates for these cameras have brought the two cameras closer together. I got a lot of questions in the comments asking how the two compare, and so that is going to be the focus of today's live show. But of course, before we get into that, let's just say hello, see who's out there today, see who's in the live chat, say good morning to everybody. And we're going to start with my good buddy, Tom, who's here. Hey, Tom, how you doing? But I was just thinking about you the other day. I might haven't heard from you in a while. I wonder how you're doing. So hopefully all is well. It is always good to see you in here. My friend Fang, good to see you in here as well. I know we would, don't worry. I'm working up a pretty cool plan for your toy. Don't worry about that. We're going to get there. We are definitely going to get there. TV Beats, what's up to you, my friend? Good to see everybody here in the live chat. I am assuming at this point that y'all can hear me and see me fine since no one is screaming at me. Aaron is awake. Look at that. Aaron is not often awake at this wicked hour of the evening. So late at 9 o'clock on the west coast of the USA, but it's good to see you here. Hello to Turtle Time. Hello to Matthew in Maryland. Where are y'all calling in from today? Let's see here. We'll get a few people in the live chat. Tell me where you're here from. It's always interesting to see. We'll give some more people a chance to tune into the live show. I am simultaneously streaming this over to the original channel as well. For those of you who are hanging out there, I see there's a few of you there. Get off. Get out of there. There's a link down below to the real chat, to the real show. Come over to this one where you can participate in the chat and you don't have a big old box over my face saying, don't look at me. So this is all, again, on the new channel. For those that haven't seen a new show on this new channel yet, just to very quickly recap this, the whole reason that we're on a new channel here is for performance. It's analytics. It's about performance on the original channel. Convinced that the live shows were hurting it. And so I just set up a whole new channel just for the live shows. So that's just the way this is going here. So let's see here. Tom says, good morning. Oh, well, that must mean you are somewhere excellent. Where, oh, where are you? Virginia, awesome. From the Windy City says, yo, hello, Windy City. Hello from Clovis, California, a little bit closer to home. Happy Thursday morning already. Still Wednesday night here. Alberta, excellent. And Fang saying good afternoon from China. That is awesome. What is this? Good to be here. What is this? Hey, Bar, good to see you, buddy. This is, what is this? This is the new PhotoJoseph Live channel. So, all right, I'll just recap that real quick. So, a few weeks ago, I've been working with this guy who's kind of a, what do you call him? Like a YouTube channel expert. He manages channels for a bunch of different people, including some pretty big YouTubers, certainly bigger than me. And so, over the course of the last couple of months of working together, looking at my analytics, he kind of felt like the live shows, not necessarily the live shows that I would do live and then just take down, which I wasn't really thrilled about doing, but it was a system. The shows that I was leaving up were hurting. The metrics were hurting the channel overall. And so he asked me if I would stop going live. I was like, no. So I decided instead to just create a whole new channel, which is what this is. So the PhotoJoseph Live channel is now the future and current home of all live shows, which means all live shows that go live here will just stay up. There's no more going to members only. So for those of you who missed the preamble last time, if you are a paid member of the PhotoJoseph channel, the regular youtube.com/PhotoJoseph channel, the primary benefit to that, the primary thing that you got in return for that was the ability to replay these live shows at any time. That benefit has gone away because the live shows are no longer there. They're now showing up here. I mean, the old live shows are still there, and I'm not touching them, but the new ones are all here. So if that was the only reason you signed up for it, then I will not feel badly if you decide to cancel that. That is perfectly fine. The other benefits you get from that are occasionally some edited shows, some of the proper edited shows will get released to you early. Like I've been doing this series of ATEM mini tips, which you haven't seen those yet. Make sure you check those out. That's been kind of fun. Most of those go up early, and so you can see those early. But if that's not an interest to you and you don't want to just throw $5 my way because you love the channel and want to say, hey, keep it going, then I won't feel bad if you drop out of it. But if you do want to keep on supporting, then that is the channel to join. This one doesn't have membership or anything like that because it's totally separate, it's totally new, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's that. All right, I'm going to quick go through the comments again, and then we're going to fire up the actual comparison. Good morning from Finland, greeting in Maryland. We know where you are. Oh, wait, is that where you always are? Is that, are you, oh, I'm so confused. I got too many things in my head. Bart, you know I'm a member, just send me a Fedora and it'll be cool. That's true. That was the other thing that you guys as members get is in the live chats, you get fun little icons, which unfortunately that's not here, which that's kind of a bummer because those are kind of cool. So I don't know. we'll see. Maybe once I can monetize this channel, which will be a while, maybe I'll do like a $1 membership on here just to get the icons because it's kind of fun and cool. But I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Ooh, an actual real question. My goodness. Do you know if the S1H will be going to 8K or 4K 120 with this update? No, absolutely not. That is not in the update. I actually covered what's in the update already. That was last week's show, which is here on this channel. You can go watch it. You can also go to PhotoJoseph.com and look at it there. But no, I would not expect that to get 8K. That's like a pretty big up. I would not expect that. Aaron says, I'm still skeptical of this strategy. Well, lucky me to try it out then instead of you. I would assume YouTube would treat lives and uploads differently in their analytics, but I look forward to being proven wrong. Well, you know, we'll see. Maybe it's just that nobody likes my stuff, and so that's why the analytics are hurting me. But, you know, who knows? Who knows? We will see how it goes. Alrighty. Congratulations on Shell. Oh, Baby Back Mania. Good to see you here, my friend. And TV Beats saying cool. All right, let me clear this out. Get rid of that, and we are going to jump into the comparison. So what I have prepared here is, I didn't actually have to do much work here. Turns out, let me pull this up. Let's pull this up properly here. Here we go. Neat little new animation I figured out how to set up. Let's see if it actually works. First time using it in a live show. Yes, it worked. It worked. Now I got to stand in the right spot though. Anyway, this web page here, this is a public Panasonic web page. I've linked to this down below. This web page is a comparison of all the S series cameras. It talks about the whole lineup. It talks about, has the latest firmware updates on there, all kinds of fun information. And at the bottom of this is this big old chart, this big old PDF. And that is what we're actually going to be looking at today. I've got this all loaded up over here. This is up to date. If you download it though, you'll see it says as of 24th of November, 2020. Somebody forgot to update that one part, but all of this data is actually current as of now. For some reason, that data is old, so we're just going to ignore that. But this is what we're going to do. So this is full public information. This is out there. You can go download this PDF yourself right now if you want to. What we're going to do is go through these line by line, comparing the S1 to the S5. So why are we doing this? Why is this a thing? A lot of people have asked, well, now with these recent updates to the S1, which added some pretty awesome features to it, how does it compare to the S5? Is the S5 now a better camera, even though it's cheaper? Like, what's the comparison? So that's what we're going to do. We're going to look at these side by side. For the most part, I'll just give you the TLDR version of this. The S1 is a $2,500 body. The S5 is a $2,000 body. So the S1 is a more expensive body. And you will see that for the most part, it does have more features than the S5. There are a couple of very minor exceptions, and there are very specific features that are new features that were new in the S5, and the fact that they aren't in the S1 probably means that they can't be added. Some hardware or something that's in the S5 that makes it not possible in the S1. Not to say that it will never happen, but I'm just saying usually when something like that happens, it's because that camera is newer. And the S5, of course, is newer, right? It is the newest of the S series cameras, whereas the S1 is the oldest of the S series cameras. So you gotta, you gotta compare that. You gotta keep that in mind. So with that said, let's just start running through these. Let's see here. I've got a separate title to pull up on top so that the titles don't scroll off. The, what do you call it? The headers don't scroll off. And we're gonna start at the very top there. Yep, there we go. So starting with the sensor size, so identical 24.2 megapixel sensors, both with a low pass filter, so that is the same. Both cameras have dual native ISO. However, the S1 gives you the ability to choose which ISO base you want. So if you want it to force it into the low ISO mode, even though you're higher, or you want to force it into high ISO mode just to ensure that you don't accidentally switch ISO bases while you're shooting or anything like that, you can do that. The S5, it's auto only. So the S5 will always choose. And I guess it's nice to have it. I think the nicest reason to have it, in my opinion, is I often end up shooting in the higher ISO base. And if you don't know or don't remember what the base ISO is on the high level, then by setting it to high ISO, you can turn the ISO down all the way and it stops at the base. And so you don't have to worry about remembering what it is. That's really pretty much the only advantage. As long as you remember what the base ISO is, and the base ISO does change depending on when you're in log or whether you're in non-log, then you know that can be convenient to know. But other than that, it's not really that important. But that is a feature difference. The sensitivity is the same, 100 to 51,200 with an extended of 50 to 204,000. My goodness. The in-body stabilization is a little bit different. Not much. Both cameras have 5-axis stabilization. Well, I just remembered I was going to make my arrow key nice and big so it'd be easier to see. Let me do that real quick. Here we go. All right, the 5-axis is on both. You get 6 stops of stabilization on the S1, 5 stops on the S5, 7 stops if you're talking about a dual IS2 lens. So that's one of the newer lenses that have the dual IS2. That gives you 7 versus 6.5 stops. So it is a difference, not a massive difference, but it is a difference. So again, advantage to the S1 there. When you're in high resolution mode, I guess this is kind of an odd thing, but the S1 will shoot to RAW, the S5 will shoot to JPEG or RAW. I mean, if you're going to shoot in that mode, I think you'd want to go RAW, but anyway, there you go. Live view composite. This is something that is unique to the S5, and you'll see none of the S series cameras have it except for the S5. This is something that's really cool for shooting stills where you're going to build up a frame over time, meaning a long exposure, for example, where you want to see the frame build and get brighter and brighter and brighter as you build it and then turn the camera off when it's the way you want. Really, really cool feature. Still photography only. That is unique to the S5. All right, let's see here. Same autofocus system, same autofocus range, same speed, and all the same styles. The S1 gained head recognition where the S5 already had it, so now those both have the same. Moving on to the shutter. Mechanical shutter of 1/8,000th to a 60-second exposure range, so same difference there. The one difference, though, is the flash sync. The X is the flash sync speed. So it's 1/320th on the S1 versus 1/250th, which is a bit more common on the S5. So if you are a studio still photographer and you cherish that slightly higher shutter speed for still photography, then without going into high shutter speed, high speed flash sync mode, I think that's right, then the S1 is an advantage there. So that's a nice thing. Not a big deal, but it's, it can make a difference depending on the work that you do. I find this curious. The durability rating of the shutter has no rating on the S5. I don't know why, but let's just assume it's going to be the same. They're all 400,000, so let's just assume that's the same. Mechanical shutter burst shooting speed. Now, this is a big difference. The S1 will give you 9 frames per second in autofocus single. That means that you focus once and then it doesn't refocus while it's shooting. So this is appropriate if you're shooting. The example I like to use is a ballet dancer, a ballerina doing a move in one position. So doing a kick, a dance, a twirl, or something in one position where you don't need to be refocusing as they move forward and backward. So that's a good appropriate use of single focus, autofocus single, but burst shooting, as opposed to actual movement, autofocus continuous. Both of these modes get a higher frame rate on the S1. So 9 and 6 versus 7 and 5. So again, a little bit of a difference, not huge, but it is significant. It is noticeably a difference. Burst shooting in, let's see here, JPEG RAW or JPEG plus RAW. In RAW and JPEG plus RAW, you get a lot more in the burst on the S1 than you do on the S5. That tells us that the buffer is bigger. That's what that is telling me. The buffer is bigger in the S1 than the S5. The live viewfinder, the LVF, it is a higher resolution OLED in the S1 than it is in the S5, so 5760K pixels versus 2360. So it's just, the image just looks nicer, sharper, tighter in the viewfinder. I'm going to get through, let's see, I guess we'll go through all of these. I'm looking at the comments. There's not a lot happening. Okay, yeah, we'll go through all of this and then we will address any questions that might be coming up. Feel free to drop your questions now as we get them and I'll come back to those at the end. All right, the rear monitor, it is slightly bigger, not much, but slightly bigger on the S1. It is also a little bit higher resolution on the S1. It has a different style of monitor. The LCD panel on the back on the S1, it's got the tilt up and down, and then it has a tilt out. Let me get my hands right. It does a tilt out like this. It doesn't do a full flippy around, whereas the S5 does the full flippy around like the GH5 and the G9. So that is more a personal preference versus a which one is better. Personally, for video shooting, I like the flip around. I actually like the flip around for pretty much everything, even for stills, because I end up using it. Let's say the camera's on a tripod in the studio and I'm setting up a set. I can look at the little LCD there and kind of position things, which is certainly nice, but it's, it's not a deal breaker feature. And I will say that I do like the flip up. So that means that the only truly superb LCD is the one that's on the S1H that does everything. It's so cool. Yeah, that's the one that we like. That's the free angle one. Oh, love that one. Anyway, so 2 different types of LCD mechanics in between the S1 and the S5. Status LCD. The S1 has a status LCD. That's a little LCD on the top. It's got that. The S5 does not. It's a nice feature. It is a nice feature. USB, they're both USB 3.1. They're all USB 3.1. This one says USB Type-C PD. I believe that means power delivery. You can power both of these cameras over AC over the USB-C port. The S5, I'm pretty sure I'm going to get this right. The S5 has a little bit more unique requirements to power it over the wall, over AC, sorry, or over an external battery. The power supply, the charger, I should say, the charger that comes with the S5 will charge the battery for the S5, obviously, but it will not power the camera. You actually have to buy something that's a little bit bigger, more robust to power the camera, whereas on the S1, the one that it comes with will do both. It'll power the camera as well. HDMI, this is a biggie. This is actually, I will admit, one of my only disappointments in the S5 is that it's got the Type D micro HDMI connector, not the full-size Type A HDMI connector. Ever since the first camera that had that was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? All cameras need to have full-size HDMI. I really, really like that, and that was one disappointment on this. So that's something to look at as well. Okay, they both have the same mic, and they both have microphone inputs, headphone outputs, and the little remote control output, 2.5 millimeters, so they've all got that. Sync terminal, the S1 has a sync terminal. It's a PC port on the camera, which means that you can plug that into a PC cable to plug into a big studio lighting system. Obviously, that's no automatic, no wireless. It's just direct plug. Very, very old school way of doing things, but it's convenient to have, and the S1's got it. The S5 does not. So again, that's really a studio photography thing. Incidentally, interesting, I didn't think to look into this, and this isn't mentioned down here. On some of the cameras, like the S1H, you can use that PC port to feed timecode into the camera. I don't actually know, darn, I wish I'd remembered to look this up before, and I don't actually know if the S1 will do that. Certainly the S5 will not, because it doesn't have the PC port. Like the GH5S has a PC port which brings in timecode in real time through that. Excuse me, the GH5 does not. The G9 doesn't have the G9 has a PC port, but it doesn't do that. I think that's right. It's a mix and match. So the S1 might not take in the timecode through that. I'm going to guess it does not. So that port is really meant for triggering a studio flash. I could be wrong, would be happy to be proven wrong, but I don't think I am. Okay, let's see here. Next, where were we? Down here, PC port. Okay, card slot. This is another big difference, and this is not necessarily one is better than the other. It's just different. They both have double card slots. The S5 has the dual SD card slot, so what we've seen on the GH5, GH5S, G9, and so on. So dual SD card slots. The S1 has a standard SD card slot and then the QXD slot, QXD/CF Express. I know when the camera first came out, a lot of people were very unhappy about that because understandably people have investments in SD cards and like, wait, now I gotta go buy a whole separate type of card, and I get it, right? I will say that those cards, if you get those cards, oh my, they're fast. And if you get a card reader, like ProGrade makes a Thunderbolt card reader for the XD. I just have it right here. Let me just grab this actually. One of these days, I do need to do a show on this. So this is a CF Express B port. Let me jump out of here real quick. CF Express B port. Let's see if I can, there's no light on here. You probably can't even see it. Anyway, that's the card reader, and it is a Thunderbolt reader, and this thing is crazy, crazy, crazy fast. You plug a terabyte card into this, and you're copying things in like lightning fast. It's really, really impressive. So if you are a still photographer and you are working in the tightest of deadline type situation, the Olympics always come to mind because I have a friend who's an Olympic photographer, and he's always talking about every second matters, getting the photos off the card after a match. That will make a difference, right? That is a significant difference. And so that's something to consider. If you work in those super, super tight deadline situations, then the S1 would be a better camera in that case. All right, moving on. Let's see here. Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, they both have, yes. Battery life, you actually get a little bit better battery life on the S5, which makes sense because the display, the monitor is smaller and not as many pixels, so that kind of makes sense. So you get a little bit more, was to say 440 photos worth through the rear monitor, 470 with the LVF versus 400 and 380. So not a huge difference, but you know, it's a difference. This is a big deal. The environmental protection. The S5 is dust and splash resistant, while the S1 has total sealing and is freeze resistant down to minus 40 degrees Celsius. That's cold. So if you're shooting in extreme environments, extremely dirty, extremely cold, extremely hot, the S1 is going to be a better camera for you. Both are magnesium alloy, both do V-Log with 14 plus stops of dynamic range, NTSC and PAL compatible. They both do MOV and MP4. The S1 actually also does AVC HD, which is a lower quality codec that is really, it's hard to edit, but it's designed for shooting long form things where you're probably not going to do a lot of editing, like say your school play, that sort of a thing. That's really what that's for. Not a big miss for most people, but if that's something that you do, then that's something you need and that's something you'll want to consider. All intra, no all intra on any of these internally except for on the S1H, so we can pass that. Then there's the 6K recording part. You can shoot 6K internally on the S1 with this new update, and that is, of course, a really, really, really big deal. So 6K internal recording on the S1, ixnay on that on the S5. None of them do 5K. The S1R is the one that does 5K, which, oh, I forgot to turn this thing back on. Let's bring that chart back up. There we go. The S1R is the one that does 5K. That's just because of its curious sensor size. Let me get this lined back up again. I got this whole PDF is like barely, there we go. Got to get it lined up. Which is a curious thing about, it has to do with its pixel density and the actual resolution of the sensor, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, C4K, Cinema 4K video. That's the 17:9 aspect ratio 4K video. These are, I think, the same, 5994, yep, all the way through. So same frame rates available on both cameras. Same with 4K, same frame rates available on both cameras. Recording time limitations, basically the same. The S1, they have all these frame rates down here are under study. So they have not yet determined, remember this firmware update is not yet released. They have not yet determined what the maximum recording time will be on those. Maybe they'll be unlimited, maybe they'll be 30 minutes, maybe they'll be 15 minutes. You don't know, it's new. The 6K ones I would expect to be shorter just because it is going to be generating a lot more heat. You got to remember the S1H with no time limit on all of these modes is one big massive heat sink. If you have not picked up that camera before, it is a beast, and it is a beast because it is one massive heat sink. So it is designed to absorb all the heat generated when shooting in those really high resolution or high frame rate modes. The S1 was not designed for that, so it is very likely to have some limitations when shooting 6K. All right, let's see, 6K. Oh, this is 10-bit specific. So now we're talking about 10-bit, 6K, 420 10-bit, and 2398 on the S1, obviously not on the S5. You have Cinema 4K. You can do 5994 at 420 and 50. You don't get those frame rates in Cinema 4K on the S5. But you go to straight 4K, and you do. You get everything the same. So 5994 down to 2398. Same thing for full HD. Both of them, of course, have HDMI output. Then there's the raw data output for HDMI, which is, of course, one of the big updates to the S1. The ability to do raw over HDMI, which this is, I think, why a lot of people suddenly went, oh, wait a second, maybe the S1 is the camera that I want. You look at these and they're all the same. You get that same raw data output. Now, that said, this is specifically for Apple ProRes RAW. The S1H is the only one that got the Blackmagic RAW. So if you're looking for Blackmagic RAW, the S1H is the only one that does that. Neither the S1 or the S5 do it. If someone's going to ask me in the comments, is it going to come? I don't know, so don't ask. Anamorphic, same on both. High frame rate is, the HFR high frame rate, you still have variable frame rate on these other cameras. The HFR is specifically with audio. The whole thing is it's just like shooting 24 versus 30 versus 60. It plays back in real time, just more frames. You get your audio with it. The S1H can do up to, let's see here, up to 120 frames per second in full HD as normal video, meaning when you hit play, it plays back at normal speed. It's just 120 frames per second, which means you also have audio. Whereas the other ones are playing back at a standard frame rate, even though they're shot in a higher frame rate. So that feature in itself is unique to the S1H. This is one of the other advantages of the S5 is the variable frame rate has been renamed in the S5. It's called slow and quick mode. It's got more control in HD. Well, actually in both modes, it has more control over the frame rate than you have in the S1. So that's kind of a fun thing. If you're doing a lot of slow motion work, you do have a bit more control over that on the S5. Time lapse is another one, 4K 30 in camera versus 4K 60 in camera. All that really means is when you shoot the time lapse, you can generate a 4K 60 file versus a 4K 30. Unlikely to be a big deal. I think anybody doing serious time lapse is going to be generating the actual time lapse videos in a computer, not in camera, but it's a feature that's in there. And then for HDR video, they both have HLG modes for like 2100. They both have time code support, meaning that they both generate time code. So they will both generate time code, which can then be output to an external recorder, which is also very important because that is how the time code path is how you control turning the external recorder on and off, or starting and stopping recording when you push the button on the camera itself. So if you have, say, a Ninja 5 on your S5 and you want to push the record button on the camera and have that trigger recording in the Ninja, time code support is what's required for that, and both of these cameras have that. And then size and weight, obviously the S1 is bigger and heavier. So let's just round up 150 mil by 132 millimeters, 110 by 97, 96 versus 81, and then a little over a kilo to under 3/4 of a kilo. So there's a pretty significant difference in weight there. And, you know, again, advantage or disadvantage, that just depends on your perspective on things. All right, that is the comparison that I wanted to run through. That's the chart. Again, you can go to the website that is in the link down below in the description, so you can download this chart and look at it yourself. Hopefully by the time you get it, it'll have the right date at the top, but that is that. So with that said, I'm gonna drink me some water and let's pull up some comments and see what you guys have to say. That was a lot of talking. All right, let's see here. Pulling up the comments. All right. So Matthew just watched one of my live shows from 2 years ago. Cool. They're still out there. They are still out there. Okay, totally not a camera question, but Bart is asking Justin if he's going to the meetup in Memphis. Are you guys going to that thing? I would love to, except A, coronavirus, so obviously not, but B, that was expensive. That whole thing was, if you guys don't know what that is, I'm assuming I'm talking about the same thing you're talking about. There is a website called AmazingRibs.com. The guy who runs that, his name is Meathead. It's an awesome website for all things barbecue. And he's doing this meetup, M-E-A-T, meetup, this like total exploration of all good things barbecue in Memphis. And it's like a workshop for barbecue geeks. I would love to go, but yeah, it was pretty expensive from what I remember. Chris says, 5K video recording for the S1R. Yes, you have 5K on the S1R. And I don't, is that new? I don't even remember if that's new or if that's been there. Let me scroll back up in this and then I'll pull it back up. Yeah, that is new. Right. That's a new feature. So there you go. If you got the S1R, you're getting 5K internal. Cool. Oh, Mr. Fraser, good to see you. The answer for the PC is further down the spreadsheet. Well, that doesn't help me. What is the answer, Matt? Tell me what the answer is because I don't know. I'm going to search on this page and see if it says anything else about PC. Matt likes to troll me in here and tell me what I'm missing. I don't know. Matt, just give me the answer. God, give me a hard time like that. Thank you for being here. Let's see here. Javier says, while recording ProRes RAW 5.9K 2398 with an S5 to a Ninja 5, okay, random one-frame horizontal lines would pop up on the Ninja screen every few seconds. Were they showing up in the recording or just in the screen? If it's just in the screen, then that sounds like a problem with the Ninja, of course, a hardware problem with the Ninja. If they're showing up in the recording, I would check your HDMI cable, make sure, try a different one. And the other possible solution, although I don't think this would show up on the screen during recording, would be a problem with the SSD card. But I don't know that that would show up in recording. It would probably only, while recording, I think that would show up afterwards. But those are the things that you can check on that. Bummer. Tom says, fantastic info. I concur. I wish I could claim credit for putting it all together. I just ripped it off from the Panasonic website. Javier, this happens, oh, look at that, he's giving me more info. This happens only when monitoring and when recording the lines or recording the footage as well. I tried several HDMI cables, several SSDs. Yikes, that does not sound good. Then it could be a hardware issue. Oh, he's got more. Tried with a different Ninja 5 and still the issue occurs. Latest firmware also were installed. So it sounds like the only thing you haven't swapped out is the camera itself. I think that a call into Panasonic tech support is in order. Great to see the stream. Well, great to have you here, Jordan. Thoughts on how the S1H compared to the Blackmagic 6K Pro? I don't have a side-by-side comparison. I'm a huge fan of the S1H. I'm also an ambassador for Panasonic. So I'm clearly going to be siding with the S1H there, but I really have no experience with that camera. I've never used one. I actually am going to be getting my hands on a BMP-CC, either 4K or 6K, to do something with the ATEM minis, because the ATEM mini, well, the ATEM mini Pro, ATEM mini Pro ISO and above, you can record, you can trigger B-RAW recording in there while recording in the ATEM. So I'm going to be playing with that. So that'll be my first time as I get my hands on one of those, and that'll be sometime next month. But I haven't really played with it so far. So you're going to have someone better to find someone better to ask about that. I'm sorry to say. Okay, Matthew, thank you very much. Says no PC input for timecode in the S1. Okay, that's what I expected. Thank you for clarifying that. Oh, I see what he's saying. Yeah, okay. What he was talking about. Let me pull this back up. Was down here under timecode. Yes, with timecode synchronization, that would be the input. Whereas these just say yes and yes, which means the generated timecode with the HDMI, as I was explaining. Okay, so that was the part I didn't read that, which would have answered that question. So thank you very much for that. You guys like that new little animation, the circle crop and moving off? I can even check this out. I can do that, right? And I do have to make sure that I'm in the right position. I can easily drift off, but I've got little shortcuts here on my Stream Deck. I can pop it to the other side, so I can toggle that back and forth. And wherever I put it, when I come out, it resolves properly. Took me a while to set that up, but it's cool. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Chris says, asking, what advantage does the Blackmagic RAW give the S1H? What do you think the S5 does? Why do you think the S5 doesn't have it? Okay, so the first question, I don't think it's an advantage over ProRes RAW. It's just a preference. If you are a Resolve editor, then you want B-RAW because you're editing in Resolve and you want Blackmagic RAW. If you're a Final Cut editor, then you want ProRes RAW because it's natively supported, it's lightning fast, blah, 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 all that good stuff. I don't think there's any fundamental difference, or at least not much of one between them. I could be wrong. I have never compared them. I'm a Final Cut editor. I've only ever used ProRes RAW. I've never touched B-RAW. I'm excited that it's there because Resolve is fantastic. It's an awesome piece of software. I just don't use it. So yeah, but other than that, that's really the reason there. Why does the S5 not have it? That is not a question for me. I have absolutely no idea. I don't know if it's feature separation, if it's a technical thing. I don't know. Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you. Usually when it comes to questions like why doesn't it have it, my answer is going to be I don't know. So just FYI. Will the S1 now be added to the Netflix list? That's quite a prestigious list. That's a really interesting question. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about that. Let's see. Netflix requirements. Oh, I'm trying to remember what the specifics were about the S1H and why it got on there. It's the dynamic range at the resolution. It might qualify. Interesting question. Interesting question. I don't know. It's so cool. It's such a nice thing. Like, that's a good pedigree to have. The S1H is on the Netflix approved list. That's pretty sweet. Turtle Time TV says, does Vlog grade well when shooting in 420 10-bit? I usually shoot 1080p 60, 422 10-bit just so I can use Vlog. Okay, I'm thinking about trying that 4K 60, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so yes, absolutely. 422 is better, right? It definitely is, but you certainly can grade 420 out of log. I think it's worth remembering that people have been shooting in Vlog or Vlog L specifically on cameras like the GH4 for a very long time and still grading beautiful footage out of that. So there are obviously differences, as with any piece of equipment, when you have some type of limitation, which basically everything has some kind of limitation. You figure out what those limitations are and you figure out how to work around them. That's just the way that kind of is, right? So, but yes, you absolutely can shoot log and grade using from 420 10-bit for sure. I think the 10 bits at that point is more important than being 422. All things being equal, obviously you want to have both, but having 10-bit is going to be more important for that Vlog grade, especially if you're really going to push it, or if you're going to do something like an HDR grade out of it, then you really want that 10-bit for sure. Okay. Animated macros. That's right, Jordan. That's what those are. Animated macros. Thanks for feeding the troll. I would love to see an editing workflow stream from start to finish on what codec you're shooting in to edit and start all the way to delivery. A lot of my clients edit in H.264 from the S1H. Okay, so there's no easy answer to that. My workflow changes depending on what I'm doing. These days, the majority of what I do outside of the new ATEM mini tips, which is kind of its own unique workflow designed to be really fast and efficient. Most of my editing, I'm shooting ProRes, not RAW, but ProRes in log, of course, off of, I've got a bank of HyperDeck recorders and all the cameras in my studio feed into those. And so I can record everything directly to those. So I pretty much shoot everything straight to ProRes 422 and actually 422, was it ProRes Lite? I'm actually shooting usually to ProRes Lite, LT, save space. Although come to think of it, for some of the things, I probably should switch that over to ProRes 422. Anyway, and then I'm pulling them into Final Cut and grading into HDR. That is the majority of what I'm doing now is I'm grading to HDR, and it's, you know, it's complex, but it's glorious, and that's what I'm doing. So there you go. Oh, and Matthew is saying no Netflix for the S1H. Thanks, Matt. I don't know why, but oh, here we go. No timecode input, no all intra codec, no Netflix. There you go. There's the answer to that. Okay, all right, and oh, Aaron. What's up, Aaron? Aaron has been helping me out. Aaron, this is not the new LUT. I didn't get that up yet. Anyway, you'll all learn about Aaron later. I'll tell you all about him later. We get more into the HDR stuff. Okay, that's the last comment right now. So I'm going to pull off the comments. And I forgot I had this new thing set up and I totally forgot to use it. Hey, if you want to subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe. Look, I built an animation. I got a button. I just push the button and it brings it up. That is actually really important because this is a brand new channel, the PhotoJoseph Live channel. So for all of you who are watching this right now, please, if you haven't already, do make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Hit the thumbs up, hit the share, hit the like, hit all the good things. Get this out there. I need to get more subscribers on this channel so that people find out about the show on the new channel and not on the old channel, which I am still simultaneously streaming to. And about 6 people are for some reason sitting on that feed with a big thing over my face. Guys, scroll down. There's a link to the proper one, although the show's almost over, but there you go. All right, let's see here. If that is it, I think we're going to wrap this thing up. Next week, actually, I think next week, hold on, let me pull up my calendar. Next week is still screwy. I'm doing these things in the morning, every morning for this week and next week that are prohibiting me from going live in the morning. So let me just double check my calendar, but I'm pretty sure next week. Yeah, next week. Oh, I know. Okay, so on my calendar, I pushed next week's Tuesday morning live show to the afternoon, to 2 o'clock in the afternoon, just so I still have a live show that day because I don't want to do another one on Wednesday night. So it's going to be Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday morning, I can't. I am, however, Tuesday morning doing a DxO webinar. So if you don't know about that or you haven't ever seen those before, if you use things like the NIC collection, actually, what is this one? This one is, the topic is noise reduction comparisons using the Deep Prime to other programs. So if you are interested in very, very, very high-end noise reduction, then come check that out. You can sign up for that. They're all free at photojoseph.com/DxO. So you want to check those things out. By the way, don't forget to subscribe. Got the button. I remember to use it. And then the show will be probably at 2 p.m. next week. I think that's what I'm going to do on Tuesday. That's local time, Pacific time, of course. All right. That's that. Yep, I think we're good. Okay, that's it. We're going to wrap this thing up. Thanks a bunch, everybody, for tuning in today. Always good to see you. Always lovely to have all you in here from all over the world. And I'm glad that I can do this show in the evening sometimes and get some of you folks that are really on the other side of the world and can't do those morning shows. So with that said, we'll see y'all later. Take care. Bye-bye.